completely else in mind, and in conversation while discussing about what we were going to talk about, I happened to tell Siddharth about a particular point of view which I have. And of course, Siddharth completely disagrees. So, Siddharth, I
I am
am
not,
here to tell
I
you.
not only disagree, I am offended by the fact that you would consider relationships a business.
And by the end of this podcast, by the end of this discussion, I will have you convinced why it is. Okay,
Okay, let's see.
let's start. So, first things first, I want you to think about the way I'm going to structure whatever I'm going to discuss is this, so that, in between, if you feel to interject, that maybe there's something else coming, so it becomes easier for me to talk.
Hmm.
The first part I'm going to talk about the romanticization of relationship in your head is a lot of it is marketing driven by professionals like you and me, and we have a very skewed view of what relationships really are. That's going to be the first part of this argument. The
Okay.
second part is going to be how I feel it's extremely healthy if you approach relationships as a business. And the third part is going to be why, even if you don't approach it as a business, you still play by the same rules a normal business does, which might as well force you to adapt to start thinking about it like a business. Okay, so that's how I'll be structuring this particular argument which I have, and of course you can stop me anywhere. So let's talk about the first part, which is the romanticization of relationships in our head. I want to start this conversation with the first and absolute dominant media giant, which is Disney. A lot of relationship tropes, which you and I consider romantic as of date, have been created in the boardrooms of Disney. Previously, marriages, relationships were used by writers, by artists to probably tell stories, but in reality, they were a very practical decision. They were a very transactional decision. And with Disney coming in and understanding that this fundamental aspect of relationships is so deeply rooted that we can take advantage of it and build up a following which is going to be with us for generations. So
Hmm.
every Disney movie, every franchise they have acquired, every princess story they have made, all of them play with the relationship trope of finding a man or a woman with various different aspects and living happily ever after. Okay, and that dopamine release which you get at happily ever after is what they are trying to push as the ideal version of a relationship.
Right.
And this has been copied, replicated across ad agencies, across uh, different TV shows, which has really skewed the view of people as to what really a relationship is. The way I look at it is this happily ever after, which is seen as a conclusion for relationships, is actually the beginning of your relationship building journey. It's
Of course.
not the be
Yeah,
all
that
end
is.
all. And
Yeah.
a lot of romanticism and a lot of these tropes which have come around it are only pushing to that moment, are pushing to that moment of happily ever after.
No.
So, yes, and you can look time and again. I'm talking about art and media. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about art and media has driven to that narrative that happily
Hmm.
ever after, finding the one, and all those things are what you should be really thinking about as relationship is, whereas
Hmm.
I believe it's otherwise. That's the first part, wherein I completely believe that a lot of these media guys have fucked up our view. And in a way I
Okay.
can tell you The
No,
best
agreed.
example of
I
this.
understand. I understand how much impact Disney has made in terms of the stories that we like to listen and the stories that we believe in, right?
Exactly.
So
And
I
the
know Disney is a huge.
worst case example of this is how De Beers Diamond has taken this to an extreme level,
Yeah, yeah.
where proposing of engagement with a diamond ring which is equal to like 4 months of your salary and all that bullshit. They build up, you see all their ad copies, you see all their advertisements, you see all the shows which they sponsor, they always build up to that moment.
Right.
Okay. Now, before I go further, I want to talk about one specific uh, piece of writing which I was really impressed by in terms of relationship, and why I feel that's a more realistic version of how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
You, of course, followed How I Met Your Mother, right?
Yep.
And the whole show is building up to the moment where, well, Ted actually meets his mother. But the more endearing relationship, the relationship which I really fell in love with, was the relationship of Lily and Marshall in that show.
Mm-hmm.
Ted's best friend, who's actually found the one, or whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually follow their journey as they're building their relationship. And I found that to be as engaging, if not more, than Ted's pursuit to find the one. And I really felt that I connected more with that, in the sense that really that's how it is. That relationship of Lily and Marshall was really messy.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship of Lily and Marshall had a lot of problems, yet they stuck together and they built it and they built it and they built something lasting. And in
Right.
Ted's case, he ended up fucking up his entire, well, youth, trying to look for the one, following the traditional trope, which, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these big publications and all have managed to fit into our head. So this is the first part of the argument, where
Right.
a lot of the tropes come in because of this.
Because of
The
Hollywood,
second,
Bollywood, and all of these guys.
yeah, and it started all with
Disney.
Disney, right?
Yeah.
So you know the story, right? Like, Disney took a lot of these German comedy, a lot of these German poetry, which was not,
Mm-hmm.
which was actually dark,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they whitewashed it, they converted into a very rosy version of what it really
Made it
was,
palatable, basically.
right? And that's the first part of my argument. Now let's come to the second part. I want you to think about what really is a business. When you think about it, a business is a group of people trying to achieve a sustained goal of hoping to improve their lives, make an impact of the world, and make money. Okay?
No, dude. Businesses exist to make profits. That is all they exist
Yeah,
to do.
so making profit is the end goal, and the way you achieve that, I'm talking about the process of a business, is a group
Mm-hmm.
of people who work together towards achieving a similar or the same goal, which is leaving an impact and making money out of that impact.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, from that perspective, what are these guys doing on a day to day basis? They are figuring out goals, they are figuring out targets, they are figuring out what's going right, what's going wrong. When things go wrong, they don't shut down the business, they actually keep working on it. They try to look at alternatives, they try to look at options, they try to get external help, they try to build internal talent, they try to learn new skills. Okay, so I want you to take all the procedural aspects of building a business, the
Mm-hmm.
end goal of making money, that goal, replace that goal, which is to make money, with living a fulfilling life with your partner. Okay, and all the procedural aspects which you have in a business, instead of having multiple employees and multiple people, you have two. And your procedural aspects are trying to clarify and define the problems which come up, the solutions, how to achieve them, and trying to track and better it on a day to day basis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When you start thinking about the relationship as a process of building something long lasting
Mm-hmm.
versus the process of finding the one, it makes so much more sense and becomes so much more palatable to actually approach a relationship, because it's an ongoing process. And let me explain, even before finding the one, how this thinking can actually help you. when you start working on a business, right, the first thing you do is you try to look to acquire customers. How do you acquire customers? You try to find people whom you think are a good match for your business's services, and you try to spend time with them wherever they are. It can be
Right.
in networking organizations, it can be on Facebook, Instagram, whatever the fuck it may be, right? Let's approach the starting point of a relation, which is glorified, where the end game is just finding the one. I believe that's the starting step, wherein if I try to figure out, okay, this is who I am, and I want someone like this, or someone with some sort of similarities, and eh, say, for example, in a business, I start approaching clients. My first business, to get my first order, I had to speak to 300 customers, and I had 299 rejections, right? And in my, say, in the first or second or 10th rejection I had given up, I wouldn't have got my first customer. Similarly, finding the like minded person who will actually match your wavelength without changing yourself, right, is a statistical process, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And in that pursuit, persistence is what will keep you going, which is very similar to a business. After finding the person, figuring out what you want, figuring out what they want, okay, and then approaching this as a journey of building something long lasting together, with constant feedback loops, with constant upgrades to yourself, to your talent, to the way you speak or the way you are, and improving yourself in this process, and well, basically becoming the best version of yourself in this journey, and becoming the best version of yourself together. This activity has lot of parallels to building a business. Okay, this is the second aspect, which is, first part is why the current relationship trope is really fucked up. The second aspect is how there's a lot of parallels between building a relationship and building a business, right? The third aspect, which I feel is the most important aspect, where most relationships end up, well, fucking up, is in a business. And this is extremely important because this actually fucks up relationships, it breaks relationships. In a business, when you make a mistake, and if your goal is to build something long lasting, you actually expect to make mistakes. In fact, if you're not making mistakes and pushing boundaries, you are not doing a good enough job, right? The same thinking is what I believe is missing in relationships, wherein a mistake in today's relationships day and age breaks the relationship. And it can be something as silly as a WhatsApp message, it can be something as silly as, I don't know, the wrong thing to say in a particular moment while you're building this together. And this is the last argument why, if you think of your relationship as building a business, where the business's goal is to build something long lasting together, where the attempt of both the partners is trying to get the best out of the other person, I don't know how else you're supposed to approach it other than this. So this is where I come from. Now, you will be thinking that, okay, what about the feelings and romanticizing and all those things? All of these things are a feature of that business, are a feature of what you guys are building together, and all of these contribute to building something long lasting together. So that's how I think about it. Now, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Okay, I want to start off by giving a few disclaimers. Okay, first of all, we're talking about romantic relationships, right? When we are comparing relationships to a business here,
Yes.
and secondly, I want to first give a very generic caveat that anything in life can be equated as a corollary to a business, right? When you think of it,
Sure.
like all all aspects of life can be compared to a business,
Okay.
है ना? Because that a business is a collective of people coming together, working towards one common goal,
Right.
and then improving everybody's lives who have worked on that common goal,
Yes.
right? So it's a form of it's an example of human endearment and unity, and what humans can achieve when they come together and pursue a common goal.
Yep.
So that obviously can be equated to a relationship, to a marriage, to all relationships, not just romantic relationships, right?
Yes.
The reason I differ as an individual to compare a romantic relationship to a business is because, see, fundamentally, businesses exist because they have an end goal in mind and which is very clear,
Okay.
right? The end goal is profits,
Okay.
and the end goal is, this whatever, there is a number and that is the end goal, right? And everybody works towards that.
Okay.
In a relationship, firstly, there is no end goal, right?
Okay.
You build the relationship as you grow as a
Okay.
person. You
Okay.
also grow as a person. The person who is with you in the relationship also grows, right?
Okay.
And you, both of you, don't have a specific end goal in mind. Like, you can say the end goal is to die together, right? Live happily ever after and all that, like you said Disney and all of these guys have sold to us, है ना? But I want to point out that love as a concept, right? And getting attracted to somebody else and wanting to be with that person, even when it is impractical to be with that person, even when nothing around you will let you be with that person. But
Okay.
even after that, there is this kick in your brain that no, I want to be with that person. It does not make economic sense, it does not make financial sense, it does not make uh, emotional sense also after a while,
Okay.
because you are being taken, you're leaving everything and pursuing that person.
Okay.
But still people end up doing that, and this is much before Disney or Shakespeare came in also, right?
Okay.
Love as a concept and impractical relationships and intercaste marriages, all these things have existed much before any sort of literary work on love was written,
Okay.
right? And mm, whenever I mention a relationship or an impractical relationship for that matter, none of these relationships had an end goal in mind. All they
Okay.
wanted to do at that point was be with each other, whether
Okay.
it was impractical or whatever, right?
Okay.
Businesses don't do that. In a business, you don't take an impractical decision. It doesn't matter what the end result is, because we already have an end result in mind, and approaching we are taking all our actions based on that one end result in mind. Okay, we
Okay.
want to achieve that.
Okay.
Whereas in a relationship, things are just open, dude. Like things are open to be explored. You do not have one end goal in mind.
Okay.
So say you do end up together, right? You have a relationship. You, both of you, end up together. You start your life together, and because you have now moved in together and you got married or whatever, or you're living in together, now you start exploring the other person. Now you start understanding the other person, right?
Okay.
Now, after this point, two things can happen, right? Either you'll fall drastically in love, you'll fall deeper in love with this person, or you'll
Okay.
be like, what the fuck, I can't do this anymore, right? This person is not someone that I can spend the rest of my life with.
Interesting. Okay.
I know these are the two things that will happen. Either way, whether you decide to spend your life with them or you decide to separate or break up or get divorced, either way, you do not have a goal in mind when you start off, right? You discover these things as in when you spend time with that person, because emotions and feelings and love is something that you cannot quantify, is something that you cannot put into a book of account, is something that you cannot make a balance sheet of at the end of the year, right? Now I understand that the approach towards a relationship uh, is better if you approach it like a business, right? Because there is a structure to everything, and there is no ambiguity, right? There is a structure to everything that you say and do and react and follow up, and the way you behave. In fact, there is a structure to it if you approach it like a business.
Right.
But that is what kills any emotion or any feeling or any relationship, in my opinion, because you cannot structure these things. There
Okay.
has to be ambiguity. Unless there is ambiguity, you will never know where it's going to end up, right? If you know the destination, then you know the route as well,
Okay.
right? But if you don't know the destination, then you'll explore the routes. You'll explore five different routes,
Okay.
and you might not like one or two. You might love the other two, and you might absolutely hate the last one, right? But those are coming from your experiences, right?
Okay.
Now that you have some experience in terms of, say you've dated five people, right?
Okay.
And you know the kind of person you will vibe with, right?
Okay.
Vibe is another thing over here. Vibing cannot be quantified,
Okay.
right? And you vibe with someone, right? And you've dated five people, and you know the kind of person you're gonna vibe with, right? You like, okay, this kind of a personality suits me, because that in that relationship I was really happy, right?
Okay.
But cut to getting married, you'll get married to someone completely different also, and even that is a possibility.
Okay.
You know, why does that happen? That happens because when you fall in love, when you are experiencing emotions, you are not thinking practically. Your
Okay.
brain switches off the practical part of your mind. Your brain switches on the impractical and emotional part of your mind, right?
Okay.
I don't know the scientific terms for it, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Right.
No, so when the impractical parts, when the emotional parts of your brain are activated, the hormones are released. There is a dopamine effect that is happening.
Okay.
At at that point, it is really uh, you know contrary to that situation. If you think of logic, if you think of practicality, if you think of it as a business, you're getting
Okay.
where I'm coming from.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is, these things cannot and should not, first of all, be quantified.
Okay.
And secondly, there is no strategy here, there is no structure here, because each individual is completely different,
Okay.
right? That is what psychology also teaches us, that
Okay.
every mind is different than the other,
Okay.
right? So if you're coming to me and telling me that, for every relationship there is this strategy for it to last long, which is approach it as a business, follow certain rules, and work hard, have a common goal, and have these strategies that you need to follow, sit down together and plan for your strategies,
Right.
you'll obviously end up doing all of these things after you get married, right? But I'm saying, don't structure your entire relationship like a business, because it
Okay.
is not. It is two human beings coming together, choosing to spend the rest of their lives with each other. That is a beautiful thing, right? That is not something that should be quantified, first of all, in my opinion.
Okay.
And also, see, if you think of it as a business, then a business is always done for selfish reasons, right? A
Okay.
business is always done because you want to better your life, you
Okay.
want to earn more profits,
Okay.
you want to increase your income levels, all of
Okay.
that. That is not the case in relationships. In relationships, obviously you find a partner, you feel better having a partner. But any successful relationship, and I'm sure you will agree to this,
Okay.
any successful relationship is is a result of sacrifices, is a result of being selfless. The
Okay.
more selfless you are, the more sacrificing you are, the more you know accommodating you are, the better
Okay.
your relationships are, right? because you need to accommodate a new person into your life, and even that new person has to accommodate you in their lives. Now you've
Okay.
been living a certain way for the first 20, 25 years of your life. Now suddenly there is one more person whom you're sharing your entire life with.
Okay.
So that obviously requires a lot of selflessness, a lot of accommodation, a lot of sacrifices,
Okay.
right? Which I don't think a business allows. A business will look down upon you if you sacrifice or you don't work in your own self-interest.
Okay.
Businesses, any business, if you work against against your own self-interest, it's a recipe for disaster. Why would you do that if you're running a business, right? But in a
Okay.
relationship, it is mandatory, it is inevitable. if
Okay.
you if you if you be like, no, I'm not going to compromise, I'm the way I am, then chances are the relationship won't really last that long,
Okay.
right? Because you have to sacrifice. Now these are some of the things, man. And also I'm an old school romantic, okay? I come from the school of thought where I think one woman man, one man woman, and you find them for life and you're happy with them throughout your life.
Okay.
And that search obviously is exhausting, is intimidating, is is a task at best, if I call it.
Okay.
But once you do find that person, then life does become better, life does become easier. You improve as a person yourself, you change a lot about yourself, you recognize your traumas, your issues, your mishappenings, right? You recognize your the things that are wrong with you, you accept them, you become vulnerable. And once you've done all that, then you start on the journey to rectify those things, to rectify those behaviors, to change yourself, right?
Okay.
And you do that because, not because the other person has come in and she doesn't like the way you're doing it. You do that because you want to become a better person yourself.
Okay.
A relationship brings that in you, right?
Okay.
And you want to become a better version of yourself for that person,
Okay.
because you want to give her the best or him the best.
Okay.
You don't want them to, you know, uh, experience a short a fucked up version of you, a version that even you don't like.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I genuinely can't think of a relationship as a business. There is so many things that make me not do that. And yeah, that's what I
So,
told you.
so let's come to the points which you brought up. The first point which anchored your argument was that a business has a clear, well-defined end goal,
Yep.
and a relationship does not.
Yeah.
I really want you to think about the best businesses historically. They don't necessarily have an end goal. Apple or Amazon have short term targets, but long term, they just want to continue being in business and adding value to the society. Similarly, for a relationship, the end goal is not necessarily a goal, it's a process of building a lasting relationship together. That's
Hmm.
the end goal. The end goal is an ongoing process that, and this is extremely important, okay? When you decide to get serious with someone in a relationship, you're committing to the fact that no matter what, even when you expose your flaws, and even when I do, we are
Mm-hmm.
committing to each other to stick with each other, even when it doesn't make sense, because that's what we decided. And that ongoing process of building a better relationship is never ending, it doesn't really end,
Huh, so
right?
but it doesn't come with targets, Nikhil. That's what you're saying
I
now.
never said
Business.
set targets. I didn't say कि इतना financial target रखना है.
मैं फाइनेंशियल टारगेट का नहीं बोल रहा हूँ यार. आई एम सेइंग, सी
It
एनी.
does come with a target that I want to build something serious together, and that's gonna take probably the entire lifetime. And
हाँ,
how
so
is that a
that
bad target to have?
That is, I'm not saying that is a bad target. That is an understood target that everyone has. But businesses are not as ambiguous. Businesses have a clearly defined target. That listen,
So
this is
I
what we
was
need to
coming to
do this
that.
year.
So
Yeah.
what does the clearly defined target look like in a relationship?
That's what
I
I'm
think
having a problem with that only. I don't think there should even be a conversation of a clearly defined target. Like it should be
so.
like both individuals are exploring each other. You can't
So
you can't
the difference with a lot of
I'll
what.
tell you my problem with this, okay? My problem with this is if you have a clearly defined target, right? Then you're directing behavior,
Okay.
which is hindering the development of a relationship. If
Okay.
you are directing behavior, right, then obviously you're not being your true self.
Okay.
And in that process, you will end up discovering a sugar coated version of your partner,
Okay.
which he's presenting or she's presenting because of the target in mind.
Okay.
You don't want that. You want them raw. You want them to be as they are. You want them to come as they are.
Okay.
Right. And that is why I think not planning or not having a structure, is very important because it gives these individuals the freedom to explore each other in whatever way they want.
Okay. So coming back to this part, why you should not have a clearly defined target. I want to talk to you about this. Uh, a good business knows how to read conditions in the
Right.
market and is able to constantly make changes. Okay. Any good business is able to do it. They're able to adapt, they're able to change goals, they're able to work on different aspects, right? When something goes wrong, a good business is able to take the hit, make changes, continue doing what they are doing. And when I say having clear targets, I am not talking about financial targets, I'm not talking about
Okay, give me an
a
example of
objective number. A
give me an
target can
example
be,
of
this
what a target
is
is.
what I am trying to do with my life. Okay.
No, no, say a short-term target in a relationship, say a one-year target.
A
What
1 year
what would
target
that
can
be?
be something as simple as we gotta get to at least these many dates. We gotta probably go on at least at the bare minimum these many holidays. We gotta be able to spend time with each other for at least these many hours. And the difference which I am feeling with your point of view and where I am coming from is I am looking at finding someone as the starting point of a relationship. And a lot of what you're telling is towards the journey of finding someone. Okay? Finding the right person with you. What I am trying to tell is after you've found someone where you think that you
No,
can commit to them.
I'm pretty clear about this that I'm talking about these things after you found the person because in my head I'm like, so once you have found the person, right, and you have decided that this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life, then that journey begins, right? And that journey should not be quantified in any way. Like even when you're saying
Right.
that, okay,
So,
I need these many dates a year or I need this much time with
right.
you a year,
Right.
I it just goes against my every grain in my body because
Sure, and I want to talk about that. And I want to
I'm like
talk about that.
why? Because
You're like, okay, how the hell can you set something up like this? The reason why, especially in today's world, it's important to think like this is more often than not, the most common reason why relationships get fucked up is because of reasons like work, like not having priority, like not spending sufficient time together. And by setting up these simple short term goals, at least you're more self aware, aligned. And
but shouldn't these things
even if you make a mistake, that's acknowledged as a mistake which can be made better later.
okay.
And that's where I am coming from. That I
Okay.
am not telling ke is date, is time. No, I'm telling
Huh.
setting up simple goals like this for yourselves together. It can be something like this. It can be, look, at least once a month we gotta go have like an unfiltered discussion about what we think about what we're doing right here. what I have liked, what I have disliked, being very transparent and open about it, because that's how businesses improve. And what I'm trying to say is the same approach you got to take in this way to improve your relationship. And the second part why it's so important today is, you like it or not, the rest of your life is going to get structured that way either way, because companies and businesses where you work in or where you work at already expect this from you. So if you don't prioritize your relationship like this, it is gonna get, well, diluted. It's gonna run into the well. It's gonna get fucked up. That's because
Okay.
you didn't have these things already, at least to a certain extent, discussed and clarified.
Okay. So, first, the first
Yeah, go ahead. The first part.
point that you mentioned was we should have a structure, and that we should plan, and we should go out for the we should have a conversation once a month for this. My argument is, shouldn't these things come naturally? Shouldn't you, as a person who are in love with someone, want to spend this much amount of time a day with that person, want to spend an hour at the end of the day talking to him or her, asking them about their day, what
Right.
happened, what they liked, what they didn't like? These things should come naturally, right? You shouldn't have to have a plan for it, right? Like, it should flow naturally. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen 20 years down the line also. Maybe after you've been in a marriage, you've been married to each other for 10, 20 years, maybe after that you need to start planning. Okay, we need to give each other this much time. But right when you're married initially, or even when you're in a relationship, all these things should come naturally, right? And second part, which what you mentioned, that in a business, that that is what happens. You structure, you formulate, you have a structure for a lot of these short-term goals, long-term goals, quarterly goals, and all of that. And that is what you do in your job, so might as well do the same thing at home, right?
Right.
But that is so fucked up. Like, that is what I hate about corporate jobs. That is what I don't like about people,
Okay.
and I'm sure that is what people who work in corporate jobs don't like about their jobs. That इतना क्या formality है? और अगर वो same चीज मैं घर पे ले आऊंगा, वो भी मेरे relationship में, तो
Okay.
isn't that fucked up? Like,
Interesting.
why,
Okay.
why would you want to corporatize your relationship?
So I want to talk about that a little bit. I didn't say corporatize your relationships. That's what I said was, this is gonna happen with your life, you like it or not, either way, because you're part of this system.
So
Okay.
at least have your relationship as a safe haven where all this is not going to intrude, right?
Okay. So I want to talk about that now. So the second part which you addressed was, shouldn't this happen naturally?
Yeah,
Okay.
the first part, yeah.
So
I mean,
again, I have to bring up a business example here. Ideally speaking, right, you want your business to grow through customer references. It should happen organically, naturally. That's the
right.
best way of growing a business, if you're growing it through customer references. However, this does not happen for various reasons. Customers are
Yep.
busy, they can't give you a reference. What I am trying to say is, something similar ends up happening even in relationships. Even if you're spending time together, looking at the other person, the way their energy is, the way their vibe is, you don't want to bring up certain topics. You want to bottle them up. You want to, set them aside, maybe forget about it. And what I am trying to say is, if you try to tell that, hey, this time we sit together, right, and we just sort this one aspect out, right, you have no idea how liberating that is as an experience. That, okay, whatever I felt right, wrong, whatever I bottled up, I can actually express myself. And from a perspective of care itself, those feelings would have been bottled up. From a perspective of not wanting to offend the person, or
Yeah, yeah, hurt that
being
person.
nice, we got
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say.
Yep,
And
yep.
this is where the second part, why it's so important to try to set these things up and keep, I'm not telling set them up and don't touch them, keep upgrading them as you build your relationship.
So this is exclusive to relationships. I don't see where this happens in a business. Like,
As in,
I mean, this part where you just talk about things that are bothering each other. You
uh-huh,
decide one day a month where
right,
you have a no holds barred, you know, unfiltered discussion.
right.
That happens only in relationships, right? I
That
don't
happens
see
in a business as well. In a business,
where.
for instance, we have this meeting on monthly or every couple of months.
Hmm.
We have it scheduled on the freaking calendar. It's just called strategic meeting. And if you remember the last couple of strategic meetings, we've made a couple of decisions, right?
Hmm.
And these have been relatively unfiltered. This is
Hmm.
Monday 11 to 12, right?
Right.
We're like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we doing this? We should be doing this, etc., etc. So that sort of open thing itself, I feel, has been the most beneficial to our business.
Yep,
What
yep.
started off as a digital marketing agency
No,
has reached,
I agree to this part that you need to have a unfiltered conversation regularly in a relationship, so that,
right?
because I agree with that part also, that there are a lot of emotions that you keep bottled up for the fear
Yes,
of not hurting the other person.
exactly.
And I
This is,
understand having that.
and let's break down some other activities which you do in a relationship, right? Like you end up, I don't know.
So I'm still coming back to the fundamental of it, Nikhil,
Okay,
which is that, uh, structuring a relationship or thinking of a relationship as a business
okay.
is a hindering, in my opinion, because you end up looking for structure in a place where ambiguity thrives.
Okay, so I have a small exercise here to just prove how important structure is for you to flourish creatively and for you to really
Agreed. I
unlock your
totally agreed.
emotional
See,
aspect.
I
Okay,
understand structure is very important when it comes to creativity,
no,
when it
I'm
comes
talking
to
about even
professional.
relationship. So I'll let's do a small activity here, and I'm sure you'll love this. Okay, so we'll play a game. Okay, and by the end of this game, you'll understand why having some sort of systems or structure in place, even in a relationship, can help. Okay,
Okay.
so the game starts. Your move.
What move? King to e5.
So, so you saw what happened when I
Yeah,
said your move with a completely
ये
unsort
ना
of
वैसा
warranted.
वाला है गोल जरूरी है क्योंकि अगर बॉल है आपके पास में बट गोल पोस्ट नहीं दिख रहा तो मारोगे कहाँ पे बॉल को, है ना? ये वो
Exactly. So,
फिलोसफी क्लास वाला है, ये मोटिवेशनल स्पीकर लोग करता है ये सब.
no, dude, this is not a motivational speaker thing. What I'm trying to tell you is this, that when you approach something from a pure ambiguous lens, it becomes extremely hard to figure out where should you be putting your energy efforts. It becomes extremely hard to figure out, are you doing something right or wrong. Having some sort of a structure in place, and the structure I chose is a business because I understand business well and I can think along these lines freely, right? This really helps put you in the right direction, point you towards the right step. You got what
Okay,
I'm trying
so
to say?
see, no, that's what where I'm coming from is, if you have the structure in place, right, then there are high possibilities that you will not take the path that you like, but the path that is more acceptable to
So I
you
want to
and
talk
your
about that a
partner.
little bit.
Now, and when you take the path that is more acceptable, more palatable, but not towards your liking,
Uh-huh.
you will end up getting frustrated with yourself and the relationship because you are sacrificing things that you don't want to sacrifice on. Right?
Okay.
You will take a path that is completely different in terms of what you wanted.
Okay.
Whereas if there is no structure and if there is no clearly defined rules,
Okay.
both you and your partner will take individual paths that you are most comfortable in individually,
Okay.
and then figure out a way to meet each other.
Okay.
Both, mutually understanding each other, that okay, I understand this is where you are coming from, and this is, listen, I want you to understand that this is where I am coming from. both of them are not sacrificing their individual liberties, are not
Okay.
sacrificing their individual freedoms
Okay.
or their individual thought process,
Okay.
but are still figuring out a way to meet each other. Yes, it
Okay.
might take a longer time. Yes, it might include a lot of fights and issues
Okay.
and a lot of disturbances.
Uh-huh.
But eventually, you'll find a way to make it work which does not, even minutely affect each other in their
So,
individual pursuits.
okay. So
That is
this
very
is where,
important, I think, if you want something to last a long time.
okay. So let's take up the example which you said, okay, where there's a couple of partners and there's very little structure in place and it's, very much driven by individual liberties and freedoms and all that.
Hmm.
And when you're committing to be in a relationship with someone,
Hmm.
it's understood, no, it's fact that you have to sacrifice a lot of your individual liberties or it does not work,
Obviously, I agree and I acknowledge
right?
that also. Yep.
Right. So if that's the thought process, when you know that you have to,
But
do a lot
very
of these things.
important that these changes should come from within. They should not be forced upon by your partner or by the relationship.
Okay.
There's a very, very big difference when these things come naturally
Okay.
and when they are forced. When they are forced, you end up with negative emotions such as frustration and irritability, right? You end up getting irritated with the other person because she or he is making you do things that you didn't want to do ever,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
I'm not saying
So I
you
want to talk
cannot.
about this a little bit more. What
Huh.
you, the example which you just gave,
It's very important that these things
that you're
come
not
naturally
forcing,
from within.
right?
Huh.
And what I
And
am
I'll
trying
tell
to
you
say,
why these people will end up doing that also. Because once you've decided to be in a relationship, you will make that conscious decision to be a better version of yourself. Because you
okay,
want that person to experience the best of you.
okay,
You want to give the best to that person, right?
okay,
And that is how the relationship also evolves.
okay,
Because if you make sure that they choose a certain path according to a certain set of rules, both of them will end up doing that for a while, right? But
okay,
at what cost? At the back of their mind, they're still getting irritated that, listen, I didn't want to do this, but I'm doing this for this person, है ना?
okay.
So they'll end up blaming you that,
So
motherfucker, because of
I
you I
wanna,
did this.
I wanna address this specific thing that
Right.
what if you end up inducing a lot of unwarranted, unnecessary, or forced activities, changes, whatever you wanna call it. I think this is more of a feature or an activity which has to be performed, wherein
No,
you
dude.
actually sit and talk about this as well. Is this something you want to do or not?
It's not just a feature, Nikhil.
It is. It's not.
It's
It's not. The reason I'm bringing this up is that's how you get better. You get better when you get uncomfortable. You never get better when you're comfortable. And what
huh,
you
I'm
are
not.
saying is you gotta keep driving in your comfort zone, and that's not gonna work because it completely opposes the view that you can't get better if you're in in a comfort zone.
No, I'm not saying that you should be hesitant to change, right? I'm saying you obviously have to change. You obviously have to get uncomfortable, right? If you're even thinking of getting into a relationship,
Right.
right? What I'm trying to say is the changes need to come from within.
Okay.
If the changes are forced, whatever reason they're forced upon or they're implied upon, I'm
Okay.
not talking about the reasons. I'm talking about, even if minutely these changes are implied or imposed,
Okay.
then they, first of all, they will not last long,
Okay.
and secondly, the effort will not be 100% to change.
So I want to talk about this. Uh,
So
you're
you're
again
better off.
you're addressing something which, see, when I say think about it as a relationship, I am specifically talking in terms of figuring out communication, figuring out that both of you are in it together to build something long term.
I
Okay,
agree that
and
all
figuring
these
out,
aspects need to have a strategy. All these aspects need to have, a well thought out process in your mind. You
right,
know, I agree to that.
and it should be discussed, I believe.
Obviously, it
Yeah,
should be discussed and it should be the process should be finalized with both the people agreeing to it.
exactly.
It shouldn't be one person, right?
Yes.
है ना? But for those reasons, I'm not going to call relationships a business, right? That is just one of the reasons, one of the ways you can build a better relationship. And I agree.
S-
But the core of a relationship is really different, Nikhil. It is not quantifying
okay.
or building it. Like the core of it is completely different, dude. You're mistaking these two things.
So one sec,
So the
and
the
I like.
approach to build a better relationship
Okay.
can be borrowed from a business. I don't
Yes.
have a problem with that. I
Yes.
in fact agree to that, and I think not just agree. I think it should be made mandatory that
Exactly.
you need to plan, you need to discuss, you need to have a because unless you communicate and unless you plan and strategize and structure a lot of things will go haywire, right?
Yep.
That's true in every case, whether it's your business, your career, your
Yes.
life. All of it needs to have a plan. All of it needs to have a strategy, right?
Right.
But the core of a relationship is still unstructured, unhindered, pure emotions, nothing else. Like I don't see anything else forming a
So
relationship.
this is where I think we disagree, wherein what I believe the core of a relationship, and I think the fundamental issue which you have is you have associated business with profits. Okay, what I am trying to tell you is change your perspective
Mhm.
and dissociate business with profits, but rather
Okay.
associate business with process. Okay,
Okay.
when someone says mind your own business, right, or when someone says
Okay, let's assume I do that. Let's assume business is more for a
a
structure,
process,
a process rather than
yes,
just, to make money.
right, exactly.
It's a
So and
process. Let's say if you're a manufacturer, then the business is a process to make money out of that product.
right. So what I am saying is a relationship is a form of a business wherein the end goal is to have a long lasting commitment connection and build something out of your build the best versions of yourselves together.
Right.
That is what I'm trying to say, that if you approach it like that, you will give yourself a long leash, you will give your
Yeah,
partner a
I
long
agree to
leash.
that, dude. I see when you have come into a relationship, when you have a relationship and you have decided that you want to spend your life together, then obviously you need to approach it in a way that a business runs, or approach it in a way that a, a team runs.
Right,
That is how you will end up getting the most out of that relationship individually and as a couple.
right,
So
exactly.
you can say
So
that
there you go.
that's what I'm saying. You can say that working on a relationship like a business makes sense,
Yeah,
but
so what is
relationships on a whole are
is a
not a
business?
business. No,
No,
they're
so
not. See, there's a fundamental difference. You are talking about the process to approach a relationship, right? The process
right,
to build a relationship,
right,
you know, the process to build a well functioning relationship.
yes.
I am talking about relationships in itself,
Okay. So,
right?
look, Siddharth, I want to ask you.
Relationships
So, break it down for
are
me.
not a
What
business.
is a relationship in itself?
A
It's a
relationship,
commitment to each other,
yeah, first of all, it's a commitment to each
right?
other
Yes.
and to yourself that this is
Yes.
the person I want to be with, right?
Yes. Correct.
Firstly, it's that. No,
Yes.
before that also,
Uh huh.
it is falling in love with a person, dude. You cannot, put that into a definition. Like,
Okay.
even I don't know how to define falling in love with someone. Like,
So I'll try to define it for you,
no,
right?
don't, don't. What the fuck? Why would you?
So
So
let me
Oscar Wilde very famously said, okay, to define is to limit. And
one
I
second. So
stand by that. I will die by that fucking argument.
let me okay, let me tell you how I have thought of it. Okay, falling in love is finding out the person whom you're willing to commit the rest of your life to.
Not necessarily. There are so many
That's
non-monogamous relationships. How do you define that?
so I've
There are so
actually
many
thought about this,
there's so
read
many
few
open
books about this.
marriages, right?
Yeah, so read few
I
books
have
about
friends who
this.
are in non-monogamous relationships and
Sure.
they're
So
fucking
let
happy.
me answer the question. So
Oh, sorry.
the when you do fall in love with someone, that feeling that you're willing to commit to them for the rest of your life. When I say commit to them, I'm not talking about, well, the example which you gave of monogamous non-monogamous relationship, I'm not talking about committing, in those boundaries, because those vary from person to person,
Right,
right?
right.
I am telling committing to them in the sense that no matter what, I won't leave your side,
Huh.
right? I'm
Yep.
talking about that.
Yeah.
When you do, and that's a very
Okay, we are
difficult
on the
thing to
same page
explain.
here.
That's a very difficult thing to explain, because you gotta experience it, because there will be a
Exactly.
point when you come
Exactly.
to a,
And that is what a relationship
no,
is.
and that's what I'm
That is
trying to
where
say. That's not
the
what it
relationship
is.
is
That's how
formed.
it starts. That's what I'm trying to say.
So,
It
so
that's
the
how it
so the
starts.
foundation, so the foundation of it is completely different, right? That's what I'm
Uh huh.
saying. Where I'm coming from is that a relationship's foundation, the way it starts, is not that उस वक्त तू ये नहीं सोच रहा होगा कि अच्छा ये मेरे को लाइफ लॉन्ग अगर मैं इसके साथ रहूंगा तो कैसा रहेगा, ये सब नहीं सोचता है तू. उस टाइम तू बस ये सोचता है कि ये बंदी अच्छी है, मेरे को सही लग रहा है इसके साथ टाइम स्पेंड करना, है ना? It
No,
is
no,
as
no, no.
simple as that.
That's not that. So that's what I'm saying. That's not where it starts. Is what I'm trying to say. Where it starts is when you get to that strong internal
हाँ कि
feeling,
I want to be with this person for the rest of my life, है ना?
no matter what.
No matter what, I want to be with this person for the rest of my life. And there is
Exactly.
no logical explanation to it. You just want to.
Exactly.
There's
And
no
what I'm
reason.
saying is,
If tomorrow somebody asks you, like, why do you love your wife? You will obviously not know exactly why you love your wife. Obviously, you'll have a
right.
list of reasons, but
So I
you.
never said love is a business. I said a relationship is a business, because after this happens, it's immense responsibility on you to do it right.
No, dude, that's what I'm saying. That वो एक यार लोग ना बहुत ज्यादा सीरियस हो गए हो लाइफ में, मतलब मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा है. मतलब तुम समझो यार. देयर इज नो प्रेशर डूड. लाइक तुम एक इंसान हो, वो भी एक इंसान है, ठीक है? तुम लोग साथ आए हो, तुमको अच्छा लगा, तुमने लव, यू फेल इन लव, यू स्टार्ट अ
Okay.
रिलेशनशिप, है ना?
Okay.
ऐसा नहीं है कि अब you have to get this right. There are so
Okay.
many divorces that happen, and after that people get married and they're happy with the other person who they didn't marry initially, right?
Okay.
हाँ.
So I want to
So
ask you this.
there
So
is
let's
no
talk about
pressure.
this.
Wait, like that's what I'm saying. I'm coming to that. Like there is no pressure, first of all, to be right or to do
Okay.
things right, है ना?
Okay.
A relationship is not after you've fallen in love, right? The part where you decide कि हाँ, I want to be with this person, for the rest of my life, no matter what.
Uh-huh.
There itself, your relationship is formed in your mind, at least. Whether she agrees or not, that is a different perspective. If
Okay.
she agrees, then the relationship is formed, and then you go ahead and do whatever, right?
Right.
But in your mind, the relationship is formed when you've decided to be with that person.
Okay.
है ना?
Okay.
And say the other person also agrees, right? And she says, yeah, I like you, let's spend the rest of our lives together.
Okay.
Now it is formed into a bond, whether it is through marriage or a live-in relationship or a contract or whatever, right? It is understood by each other, by you
Okay.
and by her, that we will be by each other's side for all our lives now. Like
Okay.
we have a partner for life, for
Right.
sharing all our ups and downs, है ना?
Okay.
This is the beginning of your relationship. This is the beginning of the of the whole thing of the whole setup, right? According to you,
Okay.
like this is where it starts,
Yes.
and where I'm coming
Yes.
from, I'm saying the relationship starts when you fall in love. It does not start, and the whole thing is a relationship. So you can
Okay.
say that
So,
building relationships is a business, right? Building a good relationship, a working relationship can be
okay.
approached like building a business. You can draw
Okay.
parallels there.
Okay.
But at the core of it, if you are comparing a relationship to a business, no, I'm sorry, that is not what it is. Like I said, a relationship is formed when you fall in love, dude. That you cannot call that a business. That's just criminal, Nikhil.
So, one sec.
That's just, oh my
So,
God.
one sec. The
Shakespeare is
disagreement
turning in
you
his
have
grave
with
right
me.
now. He's like, what the fuck?
So, the 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 disagreement you have with me is more from a vocabulary perspective and not from a process and a business execution perspective.
No, your vocabulary is defining relationships like a business only. I'm saying नहीं ऐसा approach ही नहीं करने का है ना
So I'll
तुमको
come to my final part. What I feel a relationship, why I try to define it as business, is it's the most fulfilling business of your life.
तो again हाँ जैसे ही रिलेशनशिप के सेंटेंस में बिजनेस सुनता हूँ ना मेरा साइक हो जाता है दिमाग लाइक क्या बोल रहे हो
And
कैसे
the reason why I'm telling you that, look, it doesn't start, at that moment. I feel you have to build it and it has to mount to something and all is, I feel a lot of people
हाँ
end up, what's the right word?
if only there was
Not,
an app for this
no, end up not trying
Hmm.
once they believe that they have fallen in love. And, it's reciprocated.
Mhm.
You got what I'm trying to say?
मतलब people who think love will happen only once
No, 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 no. What I'm trying
तो
to
फिर
say is, first thing is, boss, ये सबसे बड़ा myth है.
हाँ
So,
ये चुतिया पे ये
so वो तो छोड़ो आप. But what I'm trying to say is, once you believe that both of you have fallen in love,
Hmm.
why I'm telling that, look, it doesn't
The
start there.
relationship starts there is what
Yeah,
I'm
so it's,
saying.
so when you commit, the process of the relationship starts there. Why
हाँ
I'm telling you this is, at this point I have seen tons of examples where people stop trying.
trying to what better the relationship
Exactly.
अच्छा ये मान
This,
गई अब क्या करूँ है ना
exactly, and this is where I'm trying to say, thinking of relationship as a
that
business is so much better.
then, then
That,
that then that love was not strong enough, dude. It's very
no, so
simple.
that's what I'm trying to tell you. That is the reason people do this, is that's what they have seen and heard. They've seen that happily ever after इसके बाद हो जाएगा.
नहीं होता है इवन आई अग्री कि ऐसा नहीं होता है बॉस लाइक
Yeah.
तुम्हें काम करना पड़ेगा उस चीज पे है ना बट
Yeah.
मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ ना निखिल दैट
So if you're
ऑल ऑफ दैट अप्रोच
working on a relationship, what do you work on? You work on a business, and the relationship is going to be the most fulfilling
हाँ you can
business
say
of your
that if
life.
you want to work on a relationship work on it like you would work on your business then I would
Exactly.
agree है ना
So
don't
after
call
that, do algebra.
relationships a
No, like
business.
write those two sentences and
Fuck algebra, dude. I hated algebra. Fucking algebra. Why? Like it was fine till arithmetic.
so
What the fuck?
working on relationship
No,
equal to working on business, working on cancel.
no. Sorry, no. I will never. I will die on this hill. Relationships are something. Okay, I'll give you my parting statements. Okay,
Okay.
really, a relationship is something where two individuals
Okay.
fall in love, decide to
Okay.
spend the rest of their lives together, right?
Okay.
Nobody forces them. Nobody tells them to do this. They
Okay.
do it voluntarily. I'm
Okay.
talking about all consensual marriages and consensual relationships, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. So when that happens, when two individuals decide to come together
Okay.
for no selfish reason of their own individually, right?
Okay.
For no financial or economic or otherwise any reason individually.
Okay.
They just purely come together because they like spending time with the other person. They want to be by their side for the rest of their lives, you know. And that is the reason they've decided to come together.
Okay.
That itself is a relationship, you know.
Okay, wait. So I have a small disagreement here, but okay, continue. Finish your point.
That for me is a relationship when two people have
Okay.
decided to come together and spend the rest of their lives
Hmm.
together. However they do it, that is their call.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Now this thing that is so beautiful, where
Hmm.
people, there are no, first of all, there is no practicality involved. There's no realistic uh, projections or numbers involved. It's just pure emotions, nothing else, right? I refuse to call such a beautiful thing a business, because it is love. It is the act of falling in love. It is
No, no,
the
no.
act of, it is, dude.
That's
What are
where I
you
have a
saying?
disagreement with you. That's what I'm trying to say. That
Okay, if
people
it's not
treat that
falling
as
in
the
love,
end game while that's
I'm
not.
not saying it's the end game, Nikhil. See, that's what I'm saying.
See, that's what
I'm
that's
saying
where the
that is where it
disagreement is,
starts.
right?
No, no,
Uh-huh.
I'm saying that is where a relationship is formed, right? That is where it starts.
Yes.
I'm not saying that is the end game.
Yes.
But a
And
relationship,
after
once it has
that, the
started,
entire process of living in that relationship would be so much better if you treat it as a business.
so you work on that relationship like you work on your business. That's what I'm saying, dude. You
Okay.
cannot call the core of it, which is falling in love,
Okay.
you cannot call that a business. And this is
So,
not coming from Disney or the romanticized ideas of a marriage. This
okay.
is me purely coming from someone who's been in love.
Right.
I loved myself at that time, right?
Okay.
It was a beautiful feeling,
Okay.
and I have still not been able to match up to that feeling. Whether I've been with people, I've been on dates,
Uh-huh.
I've been with other girls,
Mm-hmm.
but that one part where you actually fall in love with someone, no,
Mm-hmm.
that is first of all not replicate. You cannot replicate that with anybody. Like, it's obviously going to happen with someone else, but
Okay.
that happening with that person is not going to happen again, right? Because it's already happened once.
Okay.
That idea, that act of falling in love, the whole part, whether
Mm-hmm.
how many ever days or months it takes
Mm-hmm.
or years it takes, that is forming of a relationship. That is where the bedrock of a relationship happens. Like, that is where the relationship sprouts, you know.
So
That cannot
that
be
part is
a
not a relationship, is what I'm trying to say.
how is it not? That is where,
It
that's the
starts after
beginning.
that, Siddharth. It starts after that.
Okay. I'm not saying you build on that relationship after that. You build that relationship after that, right? The conceiving has happened. No, you formed the relationship.
Okay.
What you are referring to is the building part. ऐसे ऐसे काम करोगे तो it will last long. It will,
Right.
be much better. And I'm totally for it. I'm totally game, right? You
Okay.
need to approach things
Okay.
in a structured manner. You can take the example of a business, you
Right.
can take the example of a sport, you can take anything, any metaphor that
Right.
works for you, right? Like you said, business
Right.
works for you because you understood business. You can take all metaphors that you want, whatever works for you guys.
Right.
But that core of it is
Okay.
falling in love and being in a
Okay.
relationship, that cannot be called a business. So even over here, a business, it's for you, right? There can be so many other metaphors for people.
Hmm.
It can be sports, it can be
Right.
making a movie, it can be forming a team, it can be so many different things. It's not necessarily a business. And plus, business has this negative connotation around
So
it, dude. It's all materialistic. Relationships are not materialistic,
I
dude.
know. I was gonna come to that. So the only reason, if you think about it, where you have a disagreement with me, is because of the cosmetic or the aesthetic value of this sentence.
No, it's not. It's because of the core of this sentence where you're equating a relationship to a business. I
Okay.
I have a huge problem with that, because a relationship is something completely different than a business. A business is materialistic, it's selfish, it's for profit, it's so many things. A relationship is
Okay.
none of that. A relationship is purely making the other person feel good because you want them to feel good. Who does that? In a business, who does that?
So, okay, this is going to be another argument, another topic later on, that is being in a relationship a selfish pursuit or not. And I would argue otherwise. I think it is a very selfish pursuit. But
I'm not. So it's not black and white, okay, Nikhil. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a
no,
gray area.
nothing is black and white, Siddharth, other than
Ah,
digits. I'm not at
yeah.
all talking about that. I'm just
Obviously,
saying,
obviously relationships are a selfish pursuit. I'm not denying that. But there are lots of acts of selfless love also in it, which you will
no,
not
so
find
how is
anywhere
that
else.
any different? How is that any different? Say, for example, I am in the business of music. I create music, right?
No,
And
wait. If you are
I
in the business of music, that's a different thing from someone who's creating music.
no, that's not true. I think it's the same thing.
No, no, it's not. Even today, Spotify takes 45%, dude, or 10%. I'm not sure.
Sure. So Spotify can be one of the business, or
Spotify
let's say,
is in the business of music. Adele is a creator, is a musician. So you cannot call Adele in the business of music, is what I'm trying to
okay.
say.
So let's come. Okay. So then you're telling me that. So we then probably disagree with our definition of what a business is. So for me, a business is a repeated process where you're creating something of value. Okay,
Huh.
it's a repeatable, repeated process. So similarly, if I'm in the business of music, for me, the way music would be is I would create music repeatedly, and that's why I'm. Of course, there's different forms of music. In Spotify's case, the business which he's in, he wants to figure out the best distribution for music. So I'm in the business of music by being a creator. A selfless act over there can be giving a small performance to, well, people who are not well off. Similarly, in relationships, you have selfless acts, is what I'm
Those
trying to
are,
say.
see, the
That,
selfless acts in business are, first of all, very rare. Secondly, there is always some quid pro quo involved. Okay. I
okay,
refuse to accept that there is no quid pro quo. If Adele is tomorrow going to perform at some charity event, then there is somebody in
yeah.
her team who would have asked her to do it, or some person who is benefiting from it. I refuse that there is a selfless act. Like, in fact, Joey said this very famously, there is no selfless act. All acts are selfish. And you can think about it. You can think all you want about it.
So
He's
I
right.
think that's also, even the, so that's what I'm trying to say. Even the relationship acts are selfish, and that's where I draw the parallel that how relationships and business are very similar. Is there is no selfless act.
No, dude, that's what I'm trying to explain it to you. That very moment when you decide कि you want to, be with this person for the rest of your life, how is that
Uh huh.
selfish?
So, for whatever reason that makes you feel better, right? What you just said,
Huh.
because of that, because you see that you can become better, because you see yourself better, it is a selfish act. It's
The
selfish
same,
both ways.
yeah, both of, like, it's a two-way street, right? So
Yeah, so the best kind of businesses are when all stakeholders are benefited.
now you're drawing a parallel from a very similar perspective. No. See,
It is. See, so you're what where uh,
my fundamental problem is equating a relationship to a business. You can call approaching a business or work approaching a relationship as a business something that makes sense, and I would agree that
okay,
approaching building the relationship over the years as you would build your business, that makes
okay,
sense, because over there you plan everything, you strategize, you have your monthly sessions, you have your yearly sessions, you give your quarterly reports to each other, you talk about all of that, and
yep,
all that is fine, right? There is an approach. There can be several approaches like that. There can be an approach like sports. There can be
okay,
an approach like building a team, or constructing a building. all these metaphors work,
Okay.
right? But at
Mhm.
its core, a relationship is the act of falling in love, and that cannot be called a business. I'm sorry. Like I would never
Okay.
call it a
Interesting.
business. Like when you're falling in love, that's just love, dude. Like there's not at that point you're not thinking of, approaching it in a structured way or all of that. You're just thinking कि हाँ अच्छा लग रहा है. That is where it starts, right?
I think
Even okay, let's take
so.
let's
Yeah,
take
I think.
let's take anybody's case.
Yeah, go
when you
ahead.
start when you start a relationship, you start dating, you only go for the second date when you like the first date, right?
So that's what I'm trying to say. The initial aspects are just dating.
It's not, dude.
It
That is
begins
where,
as a
like,
relationship.
it's obviously begins as
It
dating,
doesn't
but
begin there.
it begins as dating, right? But when you decide, both of you, that you want to spend the rest of your lives together, that act,
It becomes a relationship, and that relationship should be treated as a business.
no, it shouldn't. Building that relationship, building on that relationship, for that you can take inspiration from business, but you can, if you so, because I'll tell you why. If you solely approach your relationship as a business, then
Uh-huh.
dude, you're trying to quantify emotions and feelings. You cannot do that.
I'm
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 saying
not at all
i'm
asking
saying
you
there
to
is
again.
room.
I'm
I'm saying there is obviously room to approach a relationship like a business. Obviously, use a
okay.
lot of the strategies that a business uses to build your
Right.
relationship also. But don't limit or define a relationship as a business. There is so much more to
Okay.
it than just a business, is what I'm saying.
What? What more?
Dude, you must tell me, you are in a relationship. I'm not.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think there is. That's what I'm
There
trying to
is,
say.
dude, Nikhil. I don't like. I
This
man,
is
come
this
on.
is the sort of, I'm sorry to say this, but this is the sort of fantasy thinking which I think screws a lot of people up.
No,
I don't think you
dude.
should give it more.
So you're saying all relationships are nothing but a business. It's just a transaction between two individuals where you come together to please each
It
other
is
and
that
make each
brutal.
other happy.
Yes, it is that brutal.
I'm sorry, dude. I don't agree. And I gave you my
And
reasons.
it is sure, and I believe it is that brutal, and I believe looking at it for what it is very liberating, in the sense that I think
Hmm.
that really makes you enjoy it more.
Hmm.
And looking at it from that perspective, that if you don't work on it, it's gonna it won't work, and looking at it
Yeah,
from the
I
perspective that,
agree on that. Yeah, you need to work on it and you can use any kind of metaphors that you prefer.
and sometimes sure, so maybe what you're trying to tell me is the metaphor which I am using to understand it myself is that of a business. That may not be applicable to any everyone, and I understand that.
No,
But
no,
what
my
I
problem
think
is
is the
you're using the metaphor to completely define a relationship. I'm saying use that metaphor. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. But
uh-huh.
use it for what it is. And that is that
Okay.
it is a tool to improve relationships. If you approach relationships as a
So
business. So that is all it
sure.
is. It's a
So
tool.
where I feel that it is what I just said
Hmm.
is when you treat it for the brutal nature which it has, which is, it is gonna be that of two selfish people getting together for their own selfish reasons, in the hopes that they build something success. If you look at it that way, that it is going to start
Your voice
there,
is
it is
cracking.
going to be two selfish people. I think that's the right approach. I think that's how nature is.
Huh, if you go back
Really
to
helps. Yeah.
evolution and you go back to survival of the fittest and
Yes.
yeah,
It's always
obviously.
been very transactional.
Yeah, but relationships have always been outside that spectrum.
I
Human
don't think so. I
emotions,
think they have been pushed out of
not
those
just
spectrum to
in
self
fact
stuff.
not just romantic relationships, a lot of other relationships also have been outside that spectrum. There are so many relationships in your life which you cannot define, or which you cannot, think of as a selfish act. Like you can't really, there's no justification or a logical reason behind so many relationships. The first thing I can think of is
Okay.
friends. Like, what is the logical explanation behind having friends? There is none. If you ask your dad and mom, they'll be like, yeah, you're right. कोई reason ही नहीं है, दोस्त क्यों चाहिए तुमको, है ना? But we all know
So,
that
see,
friends are
even with
important, right? And we learn that
no, no, even
with
with
a lot of
friends,
friends.
look, okay, so even with friends, consciously you may think that it's something which is selfless. Subconsciously, being in groups is always a survival benefit,
Huh, that has been human nature since the beginning. I'm not saying, I'm not denying that.
right?
I'm saying when you
Uh huh.
pick individual friends, right? Why do you pick
Uh huh.
some people as friends and you don't pick other people as friends?
Because you relate to them better, and the chances that the group sticks together is higher.
Nobody thinks of the group when they're forming the group, right? First of all.
Of course.
है ना?
So when you think about it now, we're having a fundamental argument of basically where I am coming from is what I am trying to say is nature is inherently very much brutal and transactional.
Agreed.
Okay. And what you are trying to say is this scope of relationship is outside of that nature. Where what I'm trying
No.
to say is within the natural scope itself, it's beautiful.
I'm saying human relationships are an anomaly, okay, to evolution. And it
Okay.
will not last a long time also. This whole idea of marriage and happily ever after or living
I don't think
together,
so.
it's not gonna last a long time. It's gonna
No, I
like,
think it does last a long time.
no,
Uh,
I'm not talking about individual marriages. I'm talking about marriage as a concept in the
as a
society.
concept itself, I think it
Huh.
lasts a long time.
No, I genuinely disagree, because I think with people getting more and more liberal,
Okay.
they don't want these restrictions on their romantic lives. They want to be able to pursue partners in n number of partners over the course of life, and that is why you see a lot of non-monogamous relationships picking up steam. Things that we hadn't heard of 5 years ago, 10 years ago, are actually a major thing today in urban centers in India, and
And
not
I
just
think,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Not just in India.
So in India, it's just picking up steam now. But if you look at the West, this is a major form of relationships, non-monogamous, right?
So I want to
And
talk about this a little
they are
bit.
defending that it with their increasing divorce rates. They're like, इतना ज़्यादा divorce हो रहा है तो इससे better करो ही मत ना शादी. Live in
And
monogamous
this is
relationship.
why I am telling you that thinking of a relationship is better. So as a business, I believe a okay. So this we need to understand. What do you think about this part? And I'll tell you what I think about it. Do you think being committed to a single person all your life, right, and committing to them no matter what, has significance societally? Like it helped. That's the foundational layer of of a well functioning society. Do you think that's the case?
It has been the case until now. I obviously don't think so. Like
Interesting. Okay.
I think the fundamental aspect of any society is happy people. The society will
Okay.
build around it. The people
Okay.
will build a society around themselves and around being happy. Now,
So
if tomorrow people decide that they are not really happy in relationships, in marriages specifically, then they will build a society around non-monogamous relationships, right?
sure.
What,
So
why not?
this is where I believe that at its core, this aspect of being able to commit yourself to a single person
Mm-hmm.
and pushing it as far as possible uh, is the fundamental layer of our society.
But doesn't this go against the very nature of evolution?
So I'm coming to that. So this aspect of being able to do that is
Mm-hmm.
what makes us human away from beasts. Okay, a beast, there's probably like
No,
5 or 6 uh, animals.
no.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so there's probably 5 or 6 animals or birds or whatever it is across the whole spectrum of the world which are truly monogamous. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and this aspect actually makes you human because it requires tremendous amount of thought, consciousness, think, right, and tremendous amount of being cerebral. And this fundamental layer is what allows you to build a society. This is where I come from. Now we can have a different argument later on. I believe the reason for divorce rates to rise, the reason for non-monogamous relations to start seeping in, is the fact that people are living only in the first aspect of trying to find the one and not looking to build something fulfilling in the long term. You got what I'm trying to say? And
Yep.
that is my argument, that why you need to think about the fragile, brutal nature of a relationship as a business the way it is, because this is what really sets us apart from the beasts.
Okay, first of all, what is this obsession with humans being the superior or, being separate from all other animals? We are
we are
also.
we are the only species which have unlocked consciousness. What are you saying? There is no
अरे
other
तो
species which has.
हाँ तो ठीक है
We
ना
are
हुआ क्या
superior.
हुआ क्या उससे
Dude, are you kidding me?
अरे
We'd
क्या
be one of the only species which may end up becoming a multi-planetary species. What are you saying?
हाँ तो okay but how is that helping anybody in any way is what I'm asking.
What?
Yeah,
What?
how exactly, tell me how.
No time in history has
Nobody knows this for sure. Okay, how do
what?
you know there are no other multiplanetary species? Are we sure of that?
No, I'm talking about the history which we know. I'm not talking about the
Exactly,
universe's
history
history.
which we know, right?
Right.
So the history that we know is always written by the hunter, not by the hunted.
Okay.
Right. Firstly, history is always very, very, very opinionated
Okay.
because it has been written by someone. It has been written by someone who won the war.
Okay.
Right. So where I was starting up from, this obsession with humans being the superior species.
Uh-huh.
ठीक है, I agree कि है हम लोग superior species.
Okay.
But do we have to base our life around that? क्यों? एक मिनट अगर आपको सोसाइटी बनाना है तो हाउ आर यू सेइंग आर यू टेलिंग मी दैट देयर आर नो अदर वेल फंक्शनिंग सोसाइटीज इन द एनिमल किंगडम
There aren't.
there there are hundreds of societies, dude. there
If
are
there's
there
any,
are,
we've taken them over.
I'm not talking about us being superior at this point, Nikhil. I'm
Okay.
talking about well functioning societies that existed before we obviously came and fucked them over. I'm not talking about us. I'm
Okay.
talking about well functioning societies that existed
Okay.
even without human beings, है ना?
Okay.
Human beings as a species are superior, agreed.
Okay.
उसको aside रखो एक मिनट के लिए.
Okay.
अगर अपन लोग उनको टेक ओवर किए तो इसका मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि उनकी सोसाइटी वेल फंक्शनिंग नहीं थी पहले. They were well functioning, right?
If they were a well
They
functioning society, they would have prevented us from taking over.
What, dude? You are obsessed with one society taking over each other. I'm not talking about taking over each other. I'm talking about
No,
societies
dude. So
existing
what? Okay.
independently.
So wait, what defines a well functioning society for you?
Any society, any place, or any congregation of living beings that helps them live independently and also as a community is a well-functioning society. For me, a
Sure.
group
And
of
for that,
hyenas is also a well-functioning society,
okay. So for
right?
that, for a well functioning society, what's the most
No, wait.
fundamental
I'm
layer
coming.
according to you?
Wait, that's what I'm coming to, right? The most fundamental layer of any well-functioning society, for me at least, are happy individuals.
No, the most well functioning society fundamental layer is security. First.
I Dude, I'm telling you where I'm coming from, and we've seen societies
Okay.
exist before, right?
Okay.
We've seen societies exist in the animal kingdom, in
Okay.
so many different species, in birds, in
Okay.
insects, right?
So you
And
say happy individual. So what does a happy individual really have? Like what constitutes that
it
happiness?
varies individually, Nikhil. That is what I'm trying to explain to you since the beginning. That is the very concept of liberty, that you do not have structures around it. Everybody is equal to pursue their own happiness, right? And I was coming to your arguments wherein you mentioned that we are the superior species, and where did we start from? So yeah, you said the bedrock of a well-functioning society are is two individuals getting together and getting married, right? Are you saying pre-civilization there were no well-functioning societies? Are you saying initial civilizations, the Harappa, the Mohenjo-daro, the
Yeah.
Egyptians, are you saying they were all in
all of
monogamous
all of them have
relationships?
monogamous manner. Yeah, all of them have monogamous relationships at its core.
Who said, dude? We
Yeah,
we are we are first of
marriages have
all.
existed for a very long time. Dude,
Wait,
India's
we are
have
we are
documented proof for
inferring.
fucking 5,000 years of
I'm
marriages.
talking about initial civilizations. I'm talking about the Egyptians. I'm talking about the Aztecs.
Okay.
Those guys were not monogamous. They were still
Okay.
functioning. They were still functioning as a very well functioning society, right?
I don't
Aztecs
think they
were.
were very well. What are you saying? The
They were,
difference
dude.
between Aztecs
The
and where we are
Egyptian.
today is not significant.
I'm not comparing. That's what I'm saying. You
Dude,
need
so
to
how are
stop
you? What
comparing.
is the metric which you're using to tell that they were a well functioning society? I'm not understanding. For me, it's
They were
innovation, technological growth, and
society.
unlocking consciousness.
Wait. You are talking about things that are happening today. I'm
Okay.
talking about things that are happening that time within their resources and their limited technological advancements. They still were a running kingdom. They were still a
Okay.
running kingdom. They were farming. They were
Okay.
domesticating animals. They were a well-functioning city. They had, they had laid down what do you call drainage pipes and
Okay.
all, dude. If that is not a sign of a
Okay.
well-functioning society, I don't know what is. We still don't have drainage pipes in Bihar, in a lot of other places, right?
So wait, you're talking about Aztecs, right?
I'm talking about a lot of
Hello?
these initial early civilizations, dude.
No, so give me an example. I want to check whether they had marriages or not.
Indus Valley, like Indus Valley, Egyptians, Aztecs, none of them had monogamous relationships.
So just give me a second.
Okay, I'll also give you other examples. Leave this also. You're saying the
So one
bedrock
sec,
of a.
before you move to the next part, uh, the Harappan people were generally known to strictly adhere to regal relations, and the fact that the couples were buried together in the same pit was an indication of monogamous relationships.
Was an indication, right? We don't know for sure because all these things are inferred,
Sure, okay.
right?
I think that's a fair inference, though.
A lot. There's a fine line. I'll still give that to you. That okay, it might be a fair inference. I'm saying all
Sure.
the civilizations weren't monogamous. I'm saying
See,
there were
when
well
you're saying
functioning
this, you're
societies.
theorizing, right? We can very quickly check this. Let's check it. Give me an example.
You can check all the civilizations you want. I really don't care. Early civilizations.
So I
Where
don't
I'm
know.
coming from is
Uh-huh.
basically saying that the bedrock of a well-functioning society is not monogamous relationships. It is happy
Okay.
individuals. Whatever makes them happy, whether they are monogamous relationships, non-monogamous relationships, or no relationships at all.
Okay.
I leave that to the individual
Okay.
and the individual liberty. Who are we to decide as a
Okay.
collective group that you have to get married, otherwise the
Okay.
society will not accept you? That's just a fucked up, I don't know, notion, because and that is also a result of conditioning. You have been conditioned since your childhood to believe this, that a society functions because of marriage, a marriage functions because of a relationship. Hence, the bedrock of the
Okay.
society, if you want to move the society ahead, produce offsprings, is marriage. I disagree
Okay.
with that. Where I'm coming from, I think the
Uh-huh.
bedrock of a well functioning society is people who
Right.
are happy. People who
Okay.
are free to pursue whatever they want. If that's a
So
marriage, let them do that. If somebody
Right. So
wants to
I'm.
get,
Let's come to that. So you're saying that, okay, where I am coming from is the bedrock of a well-functioning society. I'm being very specific. Is marriage. What you're telling is the bedrock of a well-functioning society is happy individuals.
okay, wait, you do
This is
notice
a
that
very vague statement. You have to get specific. What do you mean by happy individuals? What does that entail? And what my
the
answer to
very
that, if I were in your case, is the majority of the population. Majority. I'm leaving space for the minority. Like, maybe some people don't fall in that bracket for whatever reasons. The majority of a population are in the structured marriage. That's what I'm telling.
only
That
then
creates a happy relationship,
only
or that
then
creates a
can they be
happy.
happy.
Yeah. So I'm trying to take it further. That 90,
Dude,
95% of the population, I think they need to get married.
otherwise they won't be happy, you're saying.
Yeah, the society will stop functioning as it's supposed to.
I'm sorry, but this is a very skewed and biased point of view. And I'll tell you why.
So give me an alternative, right? Tell me what specifically. So happy people, what does it constitute?
Dude, the very nature of, letting people be happy is to not define.
So
You have
when you
to give them
approach
a
it from the
freedom.
perspective that you can't define, and when you approach it from the perspective that you leave it vague,
Huh.
that creates chaos, Siddharth, and that
So,
chaos is a problem.
why? Why is chaos
When are you serious? So
a problem? Wait,
chaos does
you're
not
telling me that
breed.
unless there is perfect, wait, you're telling me unless there is perfect organization in
Uh huh.
people, the
Uh
society
huh.
cannot function as a well-function, like the society cannot be a well-functioning one.
What I am saying is this: that for sure I know chaos is not the answer.
I'm
I'm
very,
not sure about the other part.
whenever I said chaos is the answer, I'm not saying chaos
But
is
that's
the
what you're
answer.
entailing, right?
Dude,
That's what you're entailing when you're leaving it
I'm saying there
vague.
is a possibility that, for them to be happy. Now they need to figure out for themselves. I am not going to end up solving the chaos, right?
Uh huh.
Nobody, no individual can. But as a society, they need to come together and solve for it. I am not saying
Okay.
that chaos is the answer. I am saying that letting people figure it out is the answer. You cannot define, you cannot say that, if you are not married, you're not happy. Or if in a society 90% people are not happy, are not married, then they will not be happy. What are you saying, dude? There are communes
So
where people live, as hippies, not get married, and they're the happiest bunch you'll find ever. And these communes still exist. There is one called Oroville in India. There are
okay.
so many alternatives. What I'm saying is, Nikhil,
So
see, this
again,
also comes
this
from
is where
conditioning.
I have a, what I am trying to say is this, right? I told you where a major chunk, majority, these commune exist as minorities. They have never been in a significant number.
Yeah,
A
I'm not saying they
majority of
are.
the people need to be in a structured marriage setup.
I strongly disagree. They don't.
And what I'm trying to say is this: the reason why that is the case is this is what makes us human.
What
This is
makes us
us
human?
identifying our consciousness and being able.
How is
One
getting
aspect
married?
of it, of
How is
course.
getting married identifying your consciousness?
No, so one of the aspect of it, that's what I'm coming to. So one of the aspect of it is, despite knowing that you don't have a bound in nature, you're not supposed to be monogamous or whatever that may mean. One of the ways of you becoming consciousness and taking some decisions away from the natural process and nature is being able to commit to someone first from a relationship perspective, but also commit to something which is, the work or whatever your
So
uh,
that is one approach towards it, Nikhil. That is not the only approach, right? There can be
so
multiple approaches to life. Yours is
so
something that works for you. Why do you have
where
this need for everybody else to agree with
I
your
never
approach?
said every single person, everybody else. What I said, as a
Majority also.
society, majority, if they are not
Why?
in this system, it creates chaos.
So why
I
not?
don't
What is
want
the
to live in a
problem with
chaotic
chaos?
world.
Wait, so because you don't want to live in the chaotic world, you will deny everybody their individual
So
liberties of
you
choosing what they want. Are you like
you are
that's just
telling me that you'd prefer to live in a chaotic world.
I prefer to live in a world where people are allowed to be happy. If that leads to chaos, so be it.
So that, of course, okay. I have a fundamental notion here that I don't think you talk about liberty a lot. I don't think we live in a really liberal world per se, where we have
We
our
obviously
individual
don't.
liberties.
We obviously
We
don't.
don't, right?
Yeah.
And the price which we paid, which is the price of liberty, was as a trade off for security, for growth, for development, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that is the kind of world I want to live in.
Okay, that's fine.
Right? And that is the kind of world which can't exist if the majority are not in the same line of thought.
That is a problematic statement. That kind of world can exist when when the majority of people are approaching life as a pursuit of happiness also. We just don't know that yet because we haven't experienced it yet. You can't deny it outrightly, saying, "Oh, that's not going to happen." How? How do we know for sure?
That so I told you, right? How I know for sure is
We've
this,
only
that
seen this part of the aspect, right? We've seen only this part of the coin. We've not seen the other part of the coin. What if there is,
no,
what
we
if,
have, we see it.
no, you like you said,
Okay.
even today, a majority of the population ends up getting married, right? We have not seen a society or a country or a city or a place where the majority of the people are unmarried.
So what I'm trying to
If
say is we have seen that
where?
before society became what it is. Yeah, I'm answering that. So before society became what it is, which is forming communities and then countries and then, okay. So let's talk about this. The society functions the way it is because of trust.
There are a lot of different wheels that move it. But yeah, okay.
Right, but I okay, so I feel the fundamental layer is trust, right?
Mhm.
Trust between individuals, right? Trust between countries, between states, between groups, right?
Huh.
That's what allows us to function as a society.
Yeah.
The fundamental layer which you and I will experience in the form of trust
Hmm.
is going to come in the form of a relationship, which is one of the most important business in your life, will have to be built around trust. This brick of trust is the building block of society. Before we ended up forming societies the way we are seeing right now, we were animals.
Hmm.
We were unable to trust each other in every way. Once this structure of trust started coming in,
Huh.
is when we became a society. What do you think about that?
But that doesn't mean that you need a relationship to trust, right? You can always trust people without a relationship also. You are selling the relationship as a must have for trust. That my fundamental problem is this, that you're trying to define a lot of things in terms
Okay.
of a working society.
Okay.
And my problem is that when you define things, you limit things. You leave
Okay.
out you leave out a lot of possibilities. You
Okay.
leave, you make sure you form a bracket, and then anything outside that bracket is something that doesn't work. It's something that is not you know practical. That is my
Okay.
problem. You cannot
Okay.
define these things, is what I'm saying. You cannot
Okay.
limit these things.
Okay.
Obviously marriage is a part of society. Obviously marriage is an
Right.
essential part of society. But is
Right.
marriage and relationships a building block of society? I'm sorry, I
Okay.
don't think so. I think a building block of society is individuals, and a well functioning and a happy society is happy individuals. Now,
See,
any
again, my main issue with your argument is not what you're saying. It's that you're leaving it at such a vague juncture.
that is what is important,
Unfortunately,
Nikhil,
you can't.
because no, you can. That I'll tell you why.
If you leave it at a vague juncture,
I'll tell you why I'm leaving it at a vague juncture. Okay,
you're
because
dude, you're being a
listen.
philosopher instead of someone who can execute.
So I don't mind being a philosopher also. What is the harm in being a philosopher? Where I'm coming from,
Okay,
I'm telling you the basis of what I think a society should be. And that I think
okay.
is honestly happy individuals. And why I'm leaving happy, ambiguous, and easy to interpret is because each individual happiness is different. And you
Sure.
cannot,
So
for
now,
it's not only different, it's also dynamic. It keeps changing, right?
okay,
So if you try and define कि नहीं marriage ही चाहिए
okay,
और अगर majority marriage में नहीं है तो फिर society well functioning नहीं होगा. I'm sorry,
okay.
that's not true because firstly we've not seen the other side of it, that a majority of the people are unmarried, and let's see how the society works. What if we end up being a happier society than we are today? You don't know. What if the reason for a majority of the people that are unhappy is because they are in a committed relationship?
Well, what I do know is what I do
we,
know
we've also
is
we've also seen a
okay.
lot of
So
lot of
what you're see the fundamental disagreement arises when you're looking at edge cases. For the edge cases, I completely agree with what you're saying. Okay, what I'm saying is for everyone else in the middle, which forms the 90-95% of the populace, there have been enough studies which tell you that at an average, married people are a lot happier. Married people end up having more fulfilling lives, have more fulfilling careers. You can go check this up. I'm not making this statistic up. You can actually check this up. For edge cases, your argument makes sense that look, there are people in the edge cases
but
which need to figure out other stuff.
but
But
shouldn't
for the
shouldn't
majority of the populace,
society
when you say that look, we need happy individuals, the immediate next question is what makes them happier? And this is one of the most fundamental things which will make you
so
happier.
that is no that's what I'm saying. You ask people what makes them happier, right?
Uh-huh.
I am saying a majority of them might say marriage, but I am also
Okay.
saying a majority of them might not say marriage. Let's have that possibility, na? What is the harm in leaving the field open, in leaving options open? I'm not denying that what you're saying is wrong. I'm not saying that marriage से लोग खुश नहीं होते. Obviously marriage से खुश होते हैं लोग. Obviously when people are married and when in a society 95% of them are married, obviously that leads to a better and well functioning
Mm-hmm.
society. But does it necessarily mean that all
Okay.
individuals in the marriage are happy? I don't think so. Okay, it obviously leads to a well functioning and well
Okay. So for
oiled
this, I have an answer.
machinery, but does it necessarily mean that all individuals are happy? I'm not sure. I'm not saying I know, but I'm not sure because I've seen results
So for
in the society functioning well. But we also know very similarly that because divorce is such a taboo in our country, that women end up tolerating a lot of shit from men and don't get out of marriages because they know that once they're divorced, life is going to end up becoming so much more difficult for them. In that case, how do you define happiness in a marriage? Like,
sure. So see, what you're specifically talking about is when it's been forced and all that. I'm completely against that.
no, no,
Okay.
Nikhil, I'm saying proper people who've gotten married with each other's consent, with each other's marriage, with each other's family's consent. But after 2 years,
Uh-huh.
it just stopped working. And even after that, women end up staying in marriages because
Okay.
divorce is such a taboo thing in India.
So look, I want to talk about that. That this is where I think thinking about relationships as a business is important. Is when you're not looking at it from that practical, brutal angle, which it really is,
Hmm.
you end up getting married because of fantasies,
Acha, I'll tell you what. Look at
because of trying to.
think of somebody who's married already, right? And somebody who is in a very good relationship, everything's working out well. For some reason, a few years down the line, it stops working out. Nobody's fault.
Okay.
It's just not working out anymore, right?
Okay.
How long do you think, uh, if you have an approach of a business, how that you need to structure things in a positive way, and you need to lead to an end goal, which is a happily married life. In such a scenario that I just mentioned, how long do you think the couple would take before accepting to themselves first that this is not working out and I need to get out of this? And after accepting it to themselves, saying it out loud and actually doing it. It's going to take forever. At times, people would die rather than get divorced. And that is why the pursuit of happiness as a fundamental approach is important, because if that is your core understanding of approach to life, then you will put your happiness above anything else. Even if it's a relationship that
So
you've agreed for, you'll be like, no
sure.
boss, this is not
So
working out.
what? Okay. So what you said makes sense. Completely agreed with what your complete statement. Where I believe, if you would push this question to say a clinical psychologist, that what makes an happy individual, and when you're a doctor, when you're a psychologist, by definition you got to be able to, break
Pinpoint and
it down
save.
into something which can be done, right?
Yeah.
They will tell, right, that the pursuit of your vocation, the pursuit of your health, the pursuit of love, and the pursuit of reputation is what will make you happy. Okay, that's what a clinical psychologist would say, and they'll ask you to. I mean, they'll tell it in different ways, of course, because I'm not a trained psychologist, obviously, but roughly the answer would fall around these lines. These pursuit of your vocation, which is your profession, your work, whatever it is, of health, which will get you wealth, basically the first pursuit. Health, pursuit of love, which is your relationship, all that, and then finally pursuit of reputation, which is leave a lasting legacy. If these pursuits, now, are you okay with this? That if I try to define what happiness means in this bracket, does that? Are you okay with that?
I'm not okay with it, but okay, I'll accept it because, okay, like professionals are behind it. I still think an individual can be happy without all these things also. Dude, you need
Okay,
to understand the
fair enough.
fundamental aspect of psychology is that each and every brain is different. So definitions are just not
Sure,
helping.
look again, Siddharth. You gotta understand this. I am not talking about edge cases. Talking about edge cases. I am talking about 90%.
Your voice is breaking.
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Huh.
So what I'm saying is, you have to understand this. I am every argument I make, I'm trying to make not for the edge cases. I'm trying
Right.
to make for the majority people in the bidden, the 90% of the population, or whatever it is, right? That's the fundamental layer. So for these guys, these pursuits which I said, does that make sense?
Okay. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I'm just saying that these pursuits for the majority, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Now, in these pursuits, pursuit of vocation, of love, of health, and of reputation, in these pursuits, let's try to push each one of them to, where that pursuit leads. So pursuit of your vocation is being someone who's really good at that work, at that job, at that business, right?
Right, right.
That's one of the building blocks of someone being happy. Pursuit of health is someone who's fit, who's secure, who will not fucking get eaten up by some wild animal, or you know, hopefully not die of COVID, but whatever it is. Pursuit of health, you know, trying to get fit, live as long as possible. That's another building block, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Pursuit of reputation, trying to do good by your fellow people, is a very noble pursuit. It's something which is important, another fundamental block of a society. And finally, the pursuit of love, which is what will make your life fulfilling.
Hmm.
And this is what I am trying to refer to when I say that these are the fundamental blocks of a society, for well
That even
functioning
I
society.
agree. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
But you brought in marriage. That is where I
sure.
differ.
So, the pursuit of love, where does it lead to?
It can lead to so many different things, dude. It doesn't have to
Dude,
end
what are
up
you
in
saying? For
marriage.
the majority of the people, it leads to marriage. Again, you're focusing on
No.
the edge cases. I'm not understanding why.
Why? Wait 1 minute. Firstly, when I'm talking about the society and the population, I will
Uh-huh.
consider everybody. I will not leave out the edge cases. Okay. And secondly, the pursuit of love is not just ending up in a marriage. The pursuit of love can be so many different things. You might not end up getting married to someone you love. How does that make
Okay.
does that mean you're not happy? Does that mean your pursuit of love is not
Dude,
fulfilled?
I'm okay with it. Again, I'm stressing on this, that the majority should have got married for the society to function well
Why,
enough.
dude? That is where I have a problem. Why
Because of the
this
fundamental
should
issue of trust.
no this should is where I have a problem. You or me or any individual for that matter cannot and should not force upon this thing that you should get married if you want to live a happy life. You can say that if you get married you will lead a happy life, that is fine, but when you say that to lead a happy life you should get married, that is a problem. I'm sorry, that is not true. I
Okay.
we know of examples where people who are not married have led happy lives, fulfilling lives.
Then those are the edge cases.
Why, dude? Because it's always, see, you're talking about edge cases because the society has made it such that everybody gets married. You don't need to be married to be happy, is what I'm saying.
Dude, you are telling me, okay, so you are telling me that the majority of conscientious human beings have been coaxed into marriage.
Yeah. We've been sold this. This is a case of classical conditioning. You look at it. Did marriage exist, a few thousand years ago? It did not. But humans have existed for millions of years. Civilization is at least twice as old as marriage is. Are you telling me the people who were initially in the first half of the civilization, they were not happy?
Okay, wait. I, I, I want to backtrack here. When I refer to marriage, I am talking about monogamous relationship. Okay,
Yeah, even I'm talking about that
so
only.
it may. Okay, so you are telling me that the majority of the human population has been coaxed into
Yeah, they
relationships.
have. Okay, wait. You're telling me that if you had the option of being in non-monogamous relationships, not just you, I'm talking about everybody as individuals, if they had option of being in a non-monogamous relationship and the society accepting it, you're telling me the majority would go for monogamous relationships?
Uh-huh.
Would they or would they not?
What would they what or would they not what?
I'm saying if tomorrow non-monogamous relationships are accepted by the society, okay, they are not looked down upon, and they are existing, okay, and
Okay,
it's a norm,
okay,
okay. There are a lot of people who are in, and everybody's accepted it.
okay,
Now tomorrow, of all the people
okay.
who are choosing to get married, you're telling me that the majority would choose monogamous relationships between monogamous and non-monogamous relationships? Are
Yes,
you?
because it's more fulfilling, and
No.
there's statistics for this. You can check this.
Bullshit.
You can check this.
Bullshit. I'm telling you,
You
if
wanna
there
check
is an
this? I'll
option,
make this. I'll send you the
dude,
report.
all the studies have happened on people who've been in monogamous relationships. I'm talking about,
No, both. there is significant amount of people who are not in monogamous
So
relationship,
I'm
right?
talking about a
There's
hypothetical,
almost
Nikhil. I'm saying tomorrow, if people are given an option to stay in
uh-huh.
non-monogamous relationships and not be judged
Okay,
by anybody, you're telling me
okay.
that the majority would go for monogamous relationships? They would
So I
not,
don't know
boss.
what majority would
Humans,
go for, but if they
no,
choose non-monogamous relationships, society fails to exist.
humans fundamentally go towards the path of least resistance. Not just
Okay,
humans, nature in itself, right?
right?
Now, you tell me between a monogamous relationship and a non monogamous relationship, which is the one that has least resistance?
The non-monogamous one.
Exactly.
Dude, that's what I'm trying to say. This what differentiates nature.
No, it would
Dude,
not,
this is the
Nikhil.
difference between a
You're
beast and
just
human.
no, you're just uncomfortable with the
It
idea
is.
because you have not seen it, you have not experienced it. Neither have I, but I am open to the idea. हो सकता है, क्यों नहीं हो सकता? Like तुम मेरे को बोल रहे हो कि 3-4 हजार साल से एक ही तरीके से सोसाइटी चल रहा है और दूसरा तरीके से चलने का पॉसिबिलिटी नहीं है. How can you not be open to the possibility that such an society can exist? Why not?
A something being different doesn't mean it's better. And I always want something better.
When am I saying it's better? But you will know it whether it's better or not only once you've tried it. How can you say it's not better before you've experienced it?
So let's break it down here. Uh, First things first, you're telling me that we don't know what's the result of this experiment. What I'm telling you is we do know the result of this experiment because there are sufficient people who are in polygamous relationships, and you can do surveys, you can check who is more fulfilled or happier. And that's been overwhelmingly towards monogamous relationships. Now you're like, no, Nikhil, this does not work because look, society still looks down upon them, so it's still not clear. Fair enough. My point is this polyamory, or that's what it's called, is how things existed before civilization was formed. So let's start with this. Do you think
So you're
having a
saying
civilization is good or bad?
human evolution led us into monogamous relationships, is what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
We've come to a point where we've experienced all that and we've chosen the best out of the rest and chosen monogamous relationships, right?
Yes,
Now you
yes.
tell me this. You tell me this. If you survey all the couples in a relationship, in a monogamous relationship, and if you survey them, and if you ask them if you're genuinely happy, wouldn't a majority of them consider a different path towards life? Why would they not? Because see, you're defining happiness into a very
Uh,
specific
Sorry, your
bracket
voice
of
broke. Can you
marriage.
repeat?
I'm saying
Can you repeat? Your voice broke.
you're defining marriage into a very specific bracket of things that this ऐसा करोगे
Okay.
तो हैप्पी, ऐसा सब नहीं करोगे तो सोसाइटी भी फंक्शन नहीं करेगा और आप हैप्पी भी नहीं रहोगे. Where I'm coming from,
Okay.
I'm saying remove the brackets. Let people be.
Okay.
Let them decide monogamous,
Okay.
non monogamous, or no relationship, or too many relationships. Individually, people should decide
Okay.
first of all. And that should be independent of happiness. That decision to be in a monogamous or a non monogamous or any relationship should be independent of their happiness. See, unless you're a happy person, you can't really get into a relationship. You need to be first happy with yourself. You need to you need to be at a position in life where you're
Yeah.
happy, where
I. Okay. So, Siddharth, where I have a difference of opinion, I am not telling you can build a society with unhappy people. That's definitely not the case. What I am saying is historically, what has worked is this. And what has got us to the heights which the human civilization has achieved is this, right? And to get better than this, you have to show me a really different path which is significantly better. If not, this pursuit has taken me to heights which I thought were never possible. That's
No,
what
I'm
I am
sorry.
saying.
This, like, the advancements in human species are a result of our curiosity and nothing else. Okay. I refuse to believe that
So
there is
for
anything else
that
that has contributed.
curiosity to breed, you need the right environment. Curiosity does not
Dude,
breed if you're worried about getting killed.
who's getting killed?
The-
Where did
so,
killing?
dude, what's the. So, when I say killed, I am referring to the way nature is. Like, you die, boss. You die in nature. You go tomorrow, try to live in forest, you die. Okay? The reason civilization is amazing is because, first thing is, it guarantees your security. Once your security is guaranteed, you start building up, right? Your food is taken care of, your living is taken care of. And once you get comfortable with these aspects, is when you become curious and you start thinking and it unlocks your creativity. That's what I am trying to say. For me,
Okay.
civilization is a very good thing. And the reason it's resulted in a civilization is because of this. And you'll like give me examples. I'll give you an example of polygamous relationships, right? Historically, kings or leaders of tribes have had polygamous relationships. They've had
Nobles.
multiple wives. Nobles have had multiple wives, but what I'm trying to say is those have always been at the detriment of society as a whole, because the neglected people are not necessarily happy. When religion started pushing the notion of monogamy and having one person for, they condemned kings, like religions condemned kings from having multiple wives and all that. That really made everyone happier, more satisfied, and it unlocked creativity is
Okay,
what I'm
wait,
trying to say.
exactly. So wait, I'll tell you, like, let's get back to this.
Yeah,
When religion started condemning non-monogamous relationships or polygamy, that is
yeah,
when everybody else became happy, is what you're saying, right? That
yes,
is when
yes.
everybody else were like, हाँ अब ठीक है जो हमारे साथ होता है वो इसके साथ भी होना चाहिए, है ना?
What,
But
I didn't get you.
that is what made the janta happy कि भाई king should not be allowed to have 4 5 wives, just like I am not allowed to have 4 5 wives, right?
Okay.
No, that's what you're saying, na? That's what made them happy when the
No,
religions
what I am
condemned.
saying is the fact that these pursuits got unlocked. Previously, that option was not available
Arey,
to the
we'll
majority
come
of the
to that.
population.
Wait, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
First, tell me this, that you're saying that the religions condemned polygamy, and that is what made everybody happy कि हाँ चलो polygamy अभी allowed नहीं है, even he is not
One
doing
of
it.
the contributing factors, yes.
Even if it was one of the component factors. Now,
Okay.
fundamentally, from a values perspective, look at this thing.
Huh?
There was one person
Okay.
who was pursuing his happiness through polygamy or whatever, है ना?
Right.
And then there was this majority of people who looked down upon it, who weren't happy with this. Why? Because they were
Right.
not getting it. Now, this is a
Okay.
classic case of jealousy, right? And we as a society took the side of the person who was jealous. We did not take the side of the person who was pursuing happiness. Now, if that pursuit of his happiness led him to get into polygamous relationships, that is his individual choice.
So
Now,
in
obviously,
your
I'm not
case,
for
let me
the
get this right.
laws.
You're
I'm
fucking taking the side of the king.
I'm not. Listen, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that
Okay.
the king was right in his pursuit of.
Okay.
I'm saying he was right in his pursuit of having polygamy as a thing for himself,
Right.
but he was wrong when he condemned others from doing it, when he stopped
Okay.
others from doing it, right? When the
Okay.
law forbade everybody else to have a polygamous relationship, that is where the king was wrong. I am saying
Okay.
he was also right in pursuing polygamous relationships, and he should have let others also do the same. Now, if that was the case, no, wait,
Okay.
see,
Okay.
that is the problem, that is the problem with conservatives, is that they completely discount a liberal idea because it is outside their
Okay.
scope of imagination. It
Okay.
is for them, it's an offense that you're even mentioning such a thing. But wait,
Sure. Okay.
zoom out.
Yeah.
If everybody was allowed to be in polygamous relationships, what do you think could have
Uh
happened?
huh.
What is the worst that you think could have happened?
Sure. So I can actually break this down. And fortunately, this is something which plays in nature with our closest, with chimps, right? Which is DNA. it would be restricted to the few men in the top, always, every time.
Okay, there were a few men
Hello?
at the top, and they got all the chicks, is
Having
what you're saying.
progeny would be restricted for the few. Yeah, that's what happens in nature. You can check it.
Uh,
They're able to dominate and get.
so that's what happened also here, na?
Only the
The
few
dom.
men at the top.
So that is what even happened here. The dominant class was into polygamous relationships, and they were giving out a lot of progenies. The others weren't giving out as many progenies as the dominant class.
Right.
Hello. So if that was the case,
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. That would be
uh,
the result of that experiment.
right now, if that was the case, and that is what happened as a no, I'm saying this has already happened without that experiment even taking place. That is already existing now. Like nobles and kings had a lot of partners and had a lot of out offsprings that were bastards and a lot of
Okay.
all of these things. I'm
Right.
saying if the common men were also allowed to have polygamous relationships, firstly they would be
Dude,
as
that's what I'm
happy.
trying to say. The answer for.
Wait,
No, no,
no.
no. One sec. That's what I'm trying to say. The answer for that question plays out in nature. There is no rule which makes chimps become monogamous. So they are polygamous species. What ends up happening in those scenarios is the top few dominant men end up get having the highest number of progeny. Like the experiment which you are trying to say is already running. We see it.
So you're saying in all species that are not monogamous, the progenies are a result of the top few male species.
Yes, and that creates problem for the species as it grows
It'll
because you
eventually
know
go
this
extinct.
that exactly that's the
Huh.
problem and that's the fundamental issue I have.
Okay, now see, firstly, now there is a problem when you're equating chimps to us because we are a far more evolved species than chimps or any other species, right? We'll obviously
So
accommodate for a lot of variations. We'll accommodate for a lot of different things.
so
Leave that
one
aside.
sec. So no, one sec. I before you make your next point, I have a point here. I want you to tell me this that if you let people be, right?
Hmm.
Will we get a clear dominance hierarchy structure or not? When I say
Dominance
hierarchical
hierarchy.
structure, I'm like
For
a proper
what?
when I say dominance hierarchical structure is like right now, for example, we live in a society which has a hierarchical structure. You know, you have a few people who are driving the majority of the decision making, few people who end up getting the majority of the cake,
Hmm.
right? My question to you is, if you let you're an experiment, you take a planet, you put 100,000 people there and you don't put any laws and you let them be. My
No, I'm
question
not
to you
saying
is,
there should
would
be no
it.
laws.
Right. Sorry. So I'm saying have laws. I mean,
I am
no killings and all
saying
that. But
to my problem
my
is with
point is,
when you
will they be
define.
a hierarchical structure or not?
See, I am not sure if there will be an hierarchical structure, but I'm
Uh
pretty
huh.
sure there will people will figure out a structure that works for them.
Right.
Maybe a
And
hierarchical
what
structure
I'm
works for you,
so
works
what
for
I'm
us right
saying
now.
is, always in nature, historically, in men, in animals, wherever it is, for the entire duration of being, living organisms have always ended up in hierarchical structures, and there's stats and data to prove this.
Huh,
So
so they
it
will
would end
also
up in a
figure out a
hierarchical
hierarchical
structure.
structure, yeah. What is there? They will if
Yes.
you put
So yeah, now
people,
continue
huh?
your point.
So if
Okay.
they will figure out, I forgot my point. What are we even talking about? What are you saying?
So you were gonna say what I told was the reason I brought this up is you were gonna tell the difference between chimps and men and why that comparison is unfair. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was saying. Honestly, I
So why I brought this hierarchical structure up is even when you let things be, right?
okay. What are the chances
We
that if
humans
we
will end
let
up in hierarchy.
if we
Yeah,
let
go
things
ahead.
be, what are the chances that if we let things be, and if in such a society that we let people be in non-monogamous relationships, I'm pretty sure that people would be happy, at least if nothing else. They will be more happy than they are right now. I'm pretty sure about that.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
I'll
I
tell
don't
you
think
why.
so.
Once there are no restrictions, people are automatically more happy. And once they are more happy, they will obviously lead to much better curiosity and much better results from that curiosity. Now, this is me theorizing, right? You are saying no because you've not seen it yet, or there's no practical
No, so I want to
there's
theorize
nothing
this as
in
well.
history to
Of
prove
course,
it.
this is a hypothetical. It is hypothetical. What I'm saying is when you don't have certain restrictions or limitations, it leads to chaos, and chaos doesn't lead to happiness. That's my fundamental issue.
I'm not denying that you should not have any sort of hierarchy or any sort of rules. Obviously, I'm for a
Okay.
structure, for a few rules, but very basic ones, okay? And after
Okay.
that, my fundamental
Okay.
problem is with defining happiness into
Okay.
marriage or into these societal structures.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but there are people who don't fit into these structures but are
Okay.
really happy, have led fulfilling lives, have contributed to the society, and are
One sec, one sec.
looked
So
up to.
I found something, I found something interesting here, and this is surprising to me. I, wow, I had not thought of this, but it just fell into place. So you said right when polygamy is legalized with existing structure and system in place, what happens? Right? Very
Your voice is
interesting thing.
breaking.
Can
Hello?
you hear?
Hello?
Can you?
Hello? Hello?
I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. So
What did you find?
very interesting fact here. You know, the Romans were like the dominant uh, civilization in historic times, right?
Yep.
The beginning of the Roman Empire was one of the contributing factors. Of course, I'm not saying this is not the only reason, but this is played out. Roman Empire were strict monogamous civilization. Towards the end, when it started failing and imploding in itself, it had become a polygamous society.
Okay. Dude, this
I
is
don't know.
connecting the
I'm just
dots.
making an observation. You can watch, you can read this up. This is what
This
happened.
is this is biased connecting the dots. There is a term for it also. I'm not sure. Hindsight bias. Yeah. This is hindsight bias playing out live. I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
also look
So
out a few societies and connect the dots that this is what happened.
sure, I would like you
What
to. So I
I
just
don't
had
want
the thought that
to.
what happened to the Roman civilization, whether monogamous or polygamous, because that was the only relevant comparison I could find with current society, which is advanced. So
So see, I am personally saying that individual freedom and liberty is at the top. Everything else follows. Now, if that individual freedom includes a polygamous relationship, so be it. If that leads to chaos, then so be it. There will somehow be a place where people will figure out the chaos, because obviously nobody likes chaos. Now, if the society as a whole has led to some situation where it is chaotic, then
okay.
that society will itself work on that chaos, and solve it, and come out of the chaos. I'm not saying that's not going to
And
happen. I'm not saying you have to
what?
stay in
Wait. So
chaos
one
to
sec,
be
one sec.
happy.
So what happens when they come out of the chaos?
They have a better structure to society than the present one. That is the problem. Wait, your mind is so limited that you refuse the possibility also of an alternative, and that is my problem.
See, Ramesh, the
This
reason
dude,
I started
this is
laughing is
what.
I started laughing because it it ended up where it started. Okay.
No, it will not. It'll end up in a better system. How do you know? We don't know. You are denying the possibility of a change.
Okay.
And that is my problem. In fact, you're laughing at it. I take offense because
Okay.
you're
Okay.
laughing at my ideas. Dude, that's what I'm trying to say. You need to be open to ideas. Okay. I'm not saying it's all worked out. I'm not saying we've all thought about it. But
Okay.
I'm saying there is a possibility, dude. Like,
Okay.
we have lived a certain way for a while,
Okay.
and we are seeing cracks coming up in that system. These cracks are your polygamous relationships, are your divorces, are the rising divorce rates, right?
Okay.
And the rising divorce rates lead to unhappy families, and unhappy
Okay.
families lead to an unhappy society. And
Okay.
these are the cracks that are coming up from the existing system.
Okay.
Now if there are cracks coming up, then obviously it needs to be fixed, right? It needs a band-aid. It needs a workover. Now what are these workovers? These are changes to the fundamental society, fundamental living as a society that we function,
Okay.
which is marriage, which is, these cracks are coming up in institutions that have been existing for a long time.
Okay.
Now these cracks need to be mended, need to be fixed. Now fixing these cracks will take a new approach. It's not going
Okay.
to happen with the same old approach.
Okay.
Now for that new approach to even start existing, there needs to be acceptance for newer ideas.
Okay.
One of these newer ideas is a polygamous
And
relationship.
another newer idea is looking at a relationship as a business.
That is something I would never fucking do. Again, working on a relationship like you work on a business, acceptable. But
Right.
relationships are a business, not acceptable. I'm sorry.
So I guess let's conclude it here. It was a very interesting conversation.
Although we are nowhere close to a conclusion, but because it has been 2 hours, 20 minutes,
I'm tired now. Yeah.
so am I.
So, uh, but yeah, really, a really unique way of thinking about things. And I'll try to keep this particular the feedback which you gave, which is figure out how you can be more open to ideas, more in perspective.
So do I, dude. I think I run away from a lot of structure, a lot of organization in all aspects of life. And I think I need to accept
Right.
that, in some aspects of life, you need organization and you need structure and you
Uh,
need to
right.
plan things. You can't just wing it all your life. Like, you'll have to have a plan eventually. I'll write this
Yeah.
on my
So,
tombstone, winging it
huh.
since 1993.
So, yeah, it was a
Fun
very interesting
conversation.
conversation.
Yep.
Let's see. I hope to cover more such topics. In fact, the next topic which we are gonna cover is something very interesting. Hopefully, we don't change it, but I'll announce it tomorrow. We're gonna talk about the arranged marriage scene in India.
Oh, dude. I wish we could call some people for whom arranged marriage didn't work out. Like, and they would just
Let's
come and
see.
shit on it. Like,
Yeah,
let's have two
let's
people.
see.
Let's have two couples. One for whom arranged
Right.
marriage worked. One for whom arranged marriage didn't work.
We need to plan this,
Yep.
and if we can get more people, we'll shoot this episode, with some of them live with their experience. But yeah, this was a really fun conversation,
Yep.
and I have one last thing to say. At least I'd like to think, and I'm probably wrong, and I'll have to work on it. But I'd like to think that I'm trying to land somewhere in middle of both of these points of views, and of course I fail both ways multiple times. So, but I want to land in the middle and then take a call, and hopefully I can get better at that.
I can't really comment because I'm not even in a relationship. But yeah, I have this
No,
romanticized idea of
when I say
relationship.
middle, I'm not talking about relationships, Siddharth. I'm talking about points of views, having a conservative and a liberal point of view, and
Oh,
I
right.
want to be able to land in the middle and take a call. So
I
that's
think
something which I try to
I,
do a lot, but of course I
yeah,
fail a lot of times. But yeah,
I think I am still center left. Like, I'm
if you're
drastically.
center left, I wonder what a left extreme is.
Hey, dude, I'm not extreme left, dude. Come on. Like, I obviously, like, I have a few ideas that are extremely liberal, But I
Uh-huh.
acknowledge the ground realities as well. Like, I acknowledge that we need a lot of structure. I
Right.
acknowledge the need for a central government, of
Uh-huh.
need for, a central authority and all of that. Yeah, I acknowledge all of that. And obviously I need to, because practically, that's, if you don't, then it's not going to happen. Like, you can't live in a dreamland. You can't, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. Communism is a failed concept. We all know that. We've seen that in real
Miserably.
life. Yeah.
Miserably. Yeah. So sad.
Capitalism has beat communism hands down. If you live, if
Yeah.
and to remind you, socialism is also a form of communism only. Okay,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
we have taken socialism ka approach, and we have failed miserably.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's another topic for another day.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I don't know.
Thanks a
I
lot,
could see a lot
Nikhil.
of viewers who stuck for
Great,
quite some time. See you
great
guys
conversation.
tomorrow. Bye.
Bye bye.